There's a prayer, hidden by monks for 1,000 years. A prayer so powerful, it changed the life of whoever discovered it. By the end of this revelation, you'll understand why it was kept in absolute secrecy. My name doesn't matter. What matters is what I'm about to tell you. 3 years ago, my life was shattered. Constant anxiety, sleepless nights, the feeling that something essential was missing inside me. You know that feeling, right? That's when I found an ancient manuscript hidden in a Franciscan library in Italy. I was researching medieval mystical texts, completely skeptical about spirituality at the time. The librarian, an elderly monk with crystal-clear blue eyes, led me to a restricted section. Pages yellowed with age, written in archaic Latin that few can decipher. The paper was so fragile, it seemed like it would crumble at the slightest touch. Lost among familiar prayers, like the Lord's Prayer and the Hail Mary. It was written as if it had been secretly added by clandestine hands. First time my eyes touched those words, I felt something inexplicable, as if time stopped for a moment, as if the manuscript had been waiting for me for centuries. When I read it for the first time, something changed instantly. It wasn't Hollywood magic. It wasn't theatrical miracle. It was as if an invisible door opened inside my soul. A door I didn't even know existed. My breath became deeper, chest expanded. A strange calm washed over me, as if every cell in my body was sighing in relief after years of holding its breath. It was at that moment, sitting in the silent library, with the ancient manuscript in my hands, that I realized something revolutionary. Entire life, I had been searching for outer peace, trying to change circumstances, control people, organize my life so that it would bring me happiness. But these ancient words pointed in a completely different direction. They whispered of a peace that already existed within me, a peace that didn't depend on anything external. Eckhart Tolle talks about the power of the present moment, about how our minds keep us trapped in the past and the future. This ancient prayer does something different. It doesn't just take you to the present, it anchors you in it, like an invisible anchor descending into the deep waters of consciousness. Have you ever felt that your mind never stops? That even when you try to meditate, the thoughts don't cease? I know exactly what that's like. I spent years trying to silence that inner voice, trying to force peace, trying to control the uncontrollable, until I discovered I was fighting against the current. The prayer I'm going to reveal to you today doesn't fight against thoughts. It dissolves them, like salt in water, naturally, effortlessly, without resistance. Spiritual masters knew this. They understood something we've lost in modernity, that certain words carry specific frequencies, vibrations that alter our state of consciousness. It's not superstition. It's ancient spiritual science. Imagine your mind as a turbulent lake, constant waves of worry, fear, anxiety. Now imagine a special stone thrown into those waters, a stone that, instead of creating more waves, calms them. That's exactly what this prayer does. Why was it hidden? The answer will shock you. For centuries, the established church rigidly controlled which prayers could be taught to the people. Every word was carefully selected to maintain a specific hierarchy. God at the top, clergy in the middle, faithful at the base. Any practice that gave people direct spiritual power was considered dangerous, heretical, subversive, because if people discovered that they could connect directly with the divine without intermediaries, the entire system of control would crumble. This specific prayer was especially feared by the ecclesiastical authorities, because it didn't just teach direct connection with God. It revealed that you and God are the same essence, that there is no separation, that there never was a separation. Imagine the terror of the powerful when they realized they were trying to control people who were, in fact, manifestations of the very divinity they claimed to represent. Oh, it was banished from official books, erased from records, burned along with other dangerous texts, served only by small groups of rebellious mystics who preferred to risk their lives rather than let this truth die. Franciscan monks, Carmelite nuns, hermits living in the mountains. They passed it from mouth to mouth, from heart to heart, guarding it like a secret treasure until it reached me. And now it has reached you. Eckhart Tolle teaches that our identity is an illusion created by the mind, that we are much more than our thoughts, emotions, and personal history. This ancient prayer confirms exactly that, but in a way you've never experienced before. When I recited it for the first time, I felt something strange, as if it were reminding me of something I always knew, but hadn't. As if these words were already written in my spiritual DNA. You know this feeling of spiritual déjà vu? Happens because certain truths are universal, timeless. They echo through the centuries, waiting for the right moment to awaken in each of us. The first part of the prayer is surprisingly simple, just 7 words in Latin. But these 7 words carry the power of 1,000 years of mystical contemplation. Translated, they mean, I am the silence that observes thoughts. Stop for a moment. Breathe deeply. Let these words penetrate you. I am the silence that observes thoughts. It's not just an affirmation. It's a revelation of identity. You are not your thoughts. You are the silent consciousness that observes them. The blank screen where they appear and disappear. When I started repeating this phrase, something extraordinary happened. My identification with thoughts began to dissolve. I didn't fight against them. I simply recognized myself as the observer. Like someone watching a movie. The movie can be dramatic, tragic, exciting, but you remain seated in your chair, unaffected by the plot. This is the freedom that the ancient masters knew. But there is a second part to the prayer, an even more powerful part, a part that very few people in history have had access to. And this is where the true transformation happens. Are you ready to go deeper? To discover what the medieval mystics really knew about the nature of reality? Because what I'm about to reveal to you will completely change your understanding of who you truly are. The second part of the prayer doesn't just talk about observing thoughts. It reveals something far deeper. Something Eckhart Tolle only touches upon superficially in his teachings. It reveals the truth about emptiness. During my journey of discovery, I spent months studying ancient manuscripts, conversing with centenarian monks, visiting monasteries lost high in the mountains, and in each place, I found fragments of the same truth. Emptiness is not absence. It is absolute fullness. Our modern mind is afraid of emptiness. We run from it. We fill every moment with stimuli, distractions, occupations. We dread silence. We terrorize ourselves with quietude. But ancient masters knew that emptiness is our true home. The second part of the prayer says, in emptiness, I find my infinite fullness. When those words first left my lips, I wept, not with sadness, but with recognition, as if my entire being whispered, Finally, I remember. Have you ever experienced being alone, complete silence, and feeling an inexplicable peace? A sense that everything is perfectly all right, even without apparent reason. That is the sacred emptiness revealed. Eckhart Tolle speaks of the power of this prayer goes further. It teaches you to inhabit the conscious emptiness that exists at the core of the now. Space between thoughts, the silence between words, the quietude between breaths. There lies your true identity. There is a third part, the most secret of all, the part that only the most advanced initiates knew, the part that transforms this prayer from a simple contemplative practice into a tool of total transcendence. And it is this third part that explains why the prayer was so feared by religious authorities. Because it doesn't just connect you to the divine, it reveals that you are the divine. I discovered these final words, everything changed. My relationship with myself, with others, with life, with death, with the mystery of existence. It was as if I had lived my whole life looking at the world through a fogged-up window. Suddenly, someone wiped the glass clean. Clarity was absolute, crystal clear, undeniable. You want to know these final words? Do you want to discover the secret that changed my life forever? Then continue with me, because what follows will challenge everything you think you know about spirituality, about God, about your own nature. The third part of the prayer is not just words. It's a key that unlocks the door to your true cosmic identity. And once that door opens, it never closes again. Third part says, I am that which always was, is, and will be. I uttered those words for the first time. Something extraordinary happened. The world stopped, literally, as if time had frozen for an eternal instant. I felt a vibration begin in the center of my chest, a vibration that expanded to every cell of my body. It was as if every atom of my being was whispering, yes, yes, finally. In that moment, I understood why this prayer was so feared by religious authorities, why it was hidden, banned, persecuted for centuries. It doesn't make you pray to God. It makes you remember that you are God, not the anthropomorphic God of religions, not a separate entity up above, but the infinite consciousness that is the very essence of everything that exists. Imagine an infinite ocean. Each drop of water in that ocean carries the essence of the ocean. You are one of those drops, unique in your form, but ocean in your essence. Breathe with me. Feel the air coming in. Let's together recite the complete prayer. Let the words penetrate every cell of your being. I am the silence that observes thoughts. In emptiness, I find my infinite fullness. I am that which always was, is, and will be. Read it with me mentally, slowly, with reverence, with the weight of 1,000 years of ancestral wisdom. Did you feel it? That subtle shift in the quality of your presence? As if something ancient had awakened within you. This is not imagination. It is recognition. In the early days of practicing this prayer, I had experiences that defied my entire understanding of reality. Moments of peace so profound that the silence seemed alive. Mental clarity that cut through any confusion like a sword of light. A sense of cosmic belonging I had never felt before. There was one specific morning I will never forget. I was reciting the prayer in the garden, watching the sunrise. Suddenly, the barriers between me and not me dissolved completely. There was no longer David observing the sun. There was only my rational mind fought fiercely against these truths. This is madness, it whispered insistently. You cannot be divine. You are just human. You have problems, fears, limitations, and therein lies the subtlest trick of all. You are human, completely human. Being human does not exclude being divine. In fact, being human is the way divinity chose to experience itself through you. Eckhart Tolle calls this form and formlessness. You are both the wave and the ocean, both the drop and the infinite water. The prayer does not deny your humanity, it embraces it, but within a much larger context. When I began to live from this understanding, my life transformed in ways I could never have imagined. Not magically or instantaneously, but profoundly and sustainably. Relationships that had been broken for years healed naturally. My ex-wife, whom I hadn't spoken to in 2 years, called me out of the blue for a conversation that ended in mutual forgiveness. Friends I had lost through pride and misunderstandings returned to my life as if an invisible force were orchestrating reconciliations. Ancestral fears that had haunted me since childhood simply dissolved. The fear of public speaking, which had paralyzed me for decades, vanished when I realized that it wasn't me speaking, but universal consciousness expressing itself through me. My life's purpose clarified like never before. Careers I pursued for status or money lost all meaning. A crystal clear direction emerged to help others remember who they truly are, as if the universe had whispered my mission in my ear. Even my physical health changed. Chronic back pain, which doctors couldn't explain for years, simply disappeared, as if the tension of living disconnected from my true nature had finally released. I'm going to teach you how to use this prayer practically, how to integrate it into your daily routine, how to allow it to transform your life experience. First application: upon waking, before you even open your eyes, before checking your phone, before slipping into the autopilot of the day, recite the entire prayer 3 times, slowly, with deep intention. Feel each word resonating in your body. Allow them to settle like fertile seeds in the earth of your consciousness. This programs your consciousness for the entire day, like tuning a radio to the correct frequency, like calibrating a musical instrument before the symphony. First few days, you may not feel anything dramatic. That's normal. Spiritual transformation is rarely spectacular. It's subtle, gradual, like a flower blooming in slow motion. Second application: during emotional crises, when anxiety arises like a giant wave, when anger explodes like an internal volcano, when sadness invades like a dense fog, pause everything. Close your eyes for 3, take a deep breath once. Whisper the first part: I am the silence that observes thought. Let these words create space between you and the emotion, as if you were an infinite sky and the emotion just a passing cloud. Instantly, you shift from total identification with the emotion to conscious observation of it. You cease to be asleep. Many times, you will fall asleep before even finishing the 3rd repetition. There's an even deeper secret I discovered only after months of consistent practice. Secret that the ancient masters knew, rarely taught. Prayer doesn't just change you. It literally changes the world around you. When you inhabit your true identity, when you recognize yourself as pure consciousness, something fundamental changes in the energetic field you emanate. It's as if you become a radio station, broadcasting on a different frequency. People feel this instantly, even without intellectually understanding what changed in you. Conversations become effortlessly deeper. Conflicts resolve with surprising ease. People begin to open up to you in ways they never have before. I remember a specific situation. I was at the supermarket, a few days after starting to practice the prayer regularly. The cashier was clearly having a terrible day, stressed, irritated, treating all the customers harshly. My turn, something different happened. I simply remained present, anchored in the consciousness of the prayer. I didn't say anything special. I didn't do anything extraordinary. I just remained in that space of inner peace. A few seconds, I saw her face transform. The tension melted away. She smiled genuinely. For the first time that day, she started talking about her problems as if we were old friends. This wasn't coincidence. Spiritual, quantum physics in action. You become like a perfectly tuned tuning fork. Other instruments around you to vibrate naturally at the same frequency of harmony and peace. Last 3 years, I've seen this prayer transform hundreds of lives. People who were on the brink of suicide found purpose. Broken marriages were rebuilt. Stagnant careers flourished. Not because the prayer is magic, because it reminds you who you really are. When you know who you are, everything becomes possible. Here's the most beautiful paradox of all. The more you recognize yourself as divine, the more humble you become. The more you connect with your infinity, the more compassionate you become with the finitude of others. Because you realize that everyone is on the same journey. Everyone is trying to remember. Everyone is seeking home. Home is this silent and infinite consciousness. Now, I'm gonna tell you something I've never told anyone. Something that sent chills down my spine. A few weeks ago, I returned to that Franciscan library in Italy. The same monastery of ancient stones, the same silent corridors, same smell of incense and history. I wanted to thank the monk who started that manuscript. I wanted to tell him about the lives this prayer had transformed. I wanted to share the tears of gratitude I had received from people around the world. But when I arrived, the librarian looked at me with a strange expression, almost melancholic. Brother Giuseppe, he said softly, died 3 years ago, exactly the same week you were here for the first time. Moment. I felt a chill down my spine, a feeling that forces much larger than myself were operating behind the scenes of my life. Here's the part that left me completely spun. In Brother Giuseppe's personal belongings, they found a sealed letter addressed specifically to the one who comes after me, seeking the lost truth. Inside, they found a paper bound with a note charged in front, from which they'd take down the envelope and left me with no one to unravel. Inside, they found a box like axiom, sealed with age. Inside, they found a note that took the place of their property. That note left me alone, waiting for someone to come back in town. It was the axiom that took things like that. But that's not what sold the envelope. Let me explain. I have never been more prickly than this. After a case of missing packages like this, I go out, do what I can, with my back still straight. Don't worry about it. I've got what I need to do. If this doesn't work, you might be out of it. But trust me, I've got this thing. The axiom of the monk's careful calligraphy revealed a truth that changed everything. I have spent 67 years, and on the last line of the letter, written in a different ink, as if added at the last minute, was to find these words, "Dear brother in the light, know that it was no accident. Divine consciousness itself orchestrating its own awakening through you. Prayer found you. just as it found me, just as it will find others. Merely instruments of eternal remembrance. And now why you are here? Why these words reached you today? It's not coincidence. It's cosmic conspiracy. You were chosen to remember, to awaken, to recognize yourself, and perhaps, who knows, to help others remember as well. The prayer that the Masters guarded for 1,000 years now lives in you, in your words, in your breath, in your consciousness, in your beating heart, in the blood flowing through your veins. I am the silence that observes thoughts. In the emptiness, I find my infinite fullness. I am that which always was, is, and will be. Recite this now, aloud or silently, with reverence, with gratitude, with the weight of 1,000 years of ancestral wisdom pulsating through you. Feel the words echoing through the centuries, thousands of voices whispering along with you, ancient masters smiling from beyond, Brother Giuseppe nodding in silent approval, existence itself celebrating your awakening. You might even feel a subtle presence around you, as if unseen angels are witnessing this sacred moment, as if the entire universe is holding its breath, waiting for your remembrance. You thought you came here to truth? You came to remember an eternal truth, a truth that you were never lost, never separated, never merely a limited human in a frail body. You always were this. Pure consciousness, playfully forgetting itself. Infinite divinity exploring its own creation through your eyes. Eternal love experiencing itself through your heart. And now, finally, you remember. The prayer was merely the invitation back home. The gentle reminder. The loving whisper of eternity calling you back to the place you never left. Welcome back, dear soul. You were deeply missed. The universe wasn't complete without your conscious remembrance. And perhaps, just perhaps, this millennial prayer was never really about specific words. Perhaps it was always about the eternal silence between the words, infinite space between thoughts, the sacred stillness between breaths, the peace that exists before the first thought and after the last. The consciousness that you are, that you always were, that you always will be. Even when this video ends, even when you temporarily forget these words, even when daily life reclaims your attention with its urgent demands and inevitable distractions, something has changed irreversibly. A seed of remembrance has been planted in the depths of your soul. A door has been ajar that will never fully close again. A light has been lit that may dim, but will never be fully extinguished. As now you know something you cannot unknow. Once you glimpse your true nature, even for an instant, something fundamental shifts in the fabric of your experience. It's like discovering that your whole life you've been wearing dark glasses, thinking the world was naturally gloomy. And suddenly someone removes them from your eyes. Even if you put the glasses back on, you'll never forget what true light feels like. And knowing that changes everything. The way you wake up in the morning, the way you treat strangers on the street, the way you face challenges, the way you relate to death, the way you experience love. Because now you know you're not just a human having an occasional spiritual experience. You are an infinite spirit having a temporary human experience. And that is the difference that changes everything.